Uka 2023. Mitt navn Øyvind Eikrem, og jeg politisk nestleder i Norgesdemokratene. I dag så sitter jeg sammen med forfatter og politiker for Alternativet for Deutschland, Stefan Korte. Vi hadde også en samtale i går. Samtalen i går var godt besøkt, og jeg ser en del av de samme ansiktene her i dag også. I dag skal vi snakke om demografiske endringer i Europa, og det generelt de endringene som finner sted innenfor verdensdelen. Rammen blir, som i går, at vi snakker i rundt 45 minutter om disse temaene, og så åpner vi for spørsmål og kommentarer fra salen. Men aller først så skal partileder Geir Ugland Jakobsen si noen ord. Så vær så god, Geir.
Takk skal du ha, Øyvind. Velkommen alle sammen, og takk for i går til dere som var her da. Det ble en opplysende kveld for en del av oss. I keep it in Norwegian in the start. Eller fordi Stefan han velbefaren på europeisk politikk. Han har vært sentral i AfD i flere år, og har spesielt fokusert på utenrikspolitikk for AfD, og vært med på den oppturen som AfD har og har hatt. Og det også interessante erfaringer som vi trekker litt på, for å se hvilket forløp som vi kan forvente, og kanskje også regissere for Norgesdemokratene i Norge. Nå det et litt annen vinkling på samme tema som i går, med geopolitikk, verdenspolitikk og de store linjene. Og det den demografiske dimensjonen, den demografiske og ideologiske dimensjonen, som veldig interessant, og som Norgesdemokratene har vektlagt mye i sitt program. Vi jo blitt partiet som tar i alt det de andre ikke tør å ta i. Det en del unevnelige, men svært tunge saker som overhodet ikke berøres i den offentlige debatten, så å si. Og hvis det berøres, så det stort sett da skinnhellighet og vedtatte politiske sannheter som gjelder, og en reell diskusjon får man ikke, for man får ikke lov å legge frem fakta, og så videre. Så undertegnede, og sikkert mange av dere også, veldig interessert i demografien. Og jeg kan si mye om den for Norges del. Mye også å lese i Norgesdemokratenes program om det. Vi innestår for alt. Det ingen problem å stå rak i ryggen og hevde alt det vi har skrevet i programmet. Men man skal holde tungen rett i munnen, for det lett å plumpe. Og komme inn på sider ved temaet som kanskje man ikke helt kan underbygge, og som man kan bli angrepet for. Så her det med å gjøre å være ganske proff når man håndterer disse sakene. Og ved siden av demografien så det dette med klima og dette med covid-19 og massevaksinering og sånn, som vi har vært sterke på, og blitt beskyldt for å være konspirasjonsteoretikere på, og hvor vi stort sett får rett hele veien, etter hvert som fakta fasit tikker inn. So thank you again, Stefan. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. I look forward to this presentation as well, as much as yesterday, because this is really something that's occupying Norgesdemokratene. And I will not run before you and proceed in your lecture.
Well, I'm sure you're much better informed than I am regarding demographics, because as I already said to Øyvind, it is not my special expertise. It is geopolitics, obviously, but I was working for a deputy of that was a member of the Committee of Internal Affairs, so I have some insight of crime statistics, of this replacement, why is it taking place, and all these things we can talk about, and I hope I can give some insight.
Very good. That's very interesting, because facts is something we lack, because these are usually hidden by the government, even if they exist. So that's a part of the politics in this area, that you have to dig it up yourself. And when you do, then you get panic, because then you see what this really is about and how the development is running away in the wrong direction. So this is very interesting and very important. So thank you, and again, take it away, Stefan. I look forward to it.
We will use this microphone.
absolutely.
We'll try to talk loudly.
As we did yesterday.
As we did yesterday. But thank you again, Stefan, for coming, and we're very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And the background for our talks, the one yesterday and the one today, is of course your book, which is still on sale, and you have some extra copies in your car, which we can also pick out because you're almost sold out.
Yeah, obviously.
So we're very happy for that. But the background for this is changes which are taking place. And some of the changes are taking place in my country, Norway, and some are taking place around Europe and the West. So this is the point of departure for today. Could you say a little bit about demographic changes in people taking place in Germany, for example?
Well,
Just
I mean,
start there.
as we already were discussing before the lecture here, this is not a Norwegian problem. This is not a German problem. It is a European problem. It takes this demographic change is taking place everywhere. People getting older, less children getting born, and of course that can only last for a certain amount of time before it has an effect on society. So for Germany, we have also very concerning numbers, and which one of it is where is it? Yeah, that there are more people dying in Germany since 1972 than there were born, which is a very disturbing fact. And less and less children, as I said, are getting born. So yeah, we have, in that regard, a serious problem. And the unfortunate thing is that our politicians in these days believe, obviously, that they can change this demographic change by simply getting people from foreign countries into our countries. But the problem is that they don't care about their origin. They just simply get whatever they can get. And that makes it a bit delicate, let's say, for the society, for the development of society.
So you identify it as a European problem?
Yes,
problem
absolutely.
of the West.
It is a European problem. And I wouldn't even say it's a European. I mean, we can take a look at Japan.
Sure.
And I think they have the same problem as well.
And the standard solution by mainstream politicians in Europe is that the problem of falling birth rates is to be remedied by importing people from other parts of the world.
That's their solution.
That's their solution. And is there opposition to this in Germany?
Of course there is an opposition to this. I mean, the problem that we have in Germany is that, as I said, society is changing right now. Because these people that are coming to Germany, and they are coming to Norway as well, as I can see, they have a different sort of socialization. They have a different, let's say, different character. They approach things. They see our women, for example, as cattle. And they treat it as cattle. They don't have any respect for our women. They don't have any respect for our religion, for our cultural heritage. And this is not a very good, let's say, basis for living together. So what is actually happening, we can also see it by the facts that are presented by demographics, that they slightly starting to push us aside. And we have several people from the Far East and Turkey and others that are just simply obviously saying, without any kind of doubt, this is not your country anymore, we're taking over anyway. So if you hear something like this, you might get a little concerned.
And if we talk about proportions, I mean, the population of Germany is 84 million. But what kind of percentage today is foreign-born or descendants of migrants? It's a considerable...
As far as the last time I checked, I think we have still 60 to 64 million Germans.
Yes.
And the rest has a migration background or is foreign.
So about a fifth of the population by now. And I mean, this is a bigger part, and in Norway a little bit bigger, but I have already shown you this propaganda material which we make for our election campaign. And in this we refer to the Norwegian Bureau of Statistics, which years ago stated clearly that if the current trends continue, ethnic Norwegians will be a minority in Norway within the year 2100, which I think is a very conservative estimate. It may happen long before that.
Exactly. Yeah. But so it's the same in Germany.
It's the same in Germany.
It's the same in Germany. As I said, I mean, we can take any country in Germany, in Europe,
yes,
and we will find the same problem everywhere. It is the same in Austria. It's the same in France. It is the same in England. So, of course, we have to find, at least the patriotic, the national parties have to find a possibility to get this information out to the people.
Sure.
Because I think they are not aware of what is going to happen, especially regarding the Muslims that do not. They simply don't care about Western society. They are just simply interested in taking over and build up their own society. I mean, we see what happened after Gaddafi got, let's say, cancelled. They fell back into the Sharia. Libya became a Sharia state, and suddenly, now we're coming back to geopolitics, America was not interested in them anymore.
No, exactly. But let's wait a little bit with the consequences. But there seems to be a very huge divide politically between those who see this as a problem and the parties who don't see it as a problem. Some people actually think it's cause to celebrate that you're getting people from different countries into Europe. Is this also the case in German politics?
Except for one party.
Yes.
Sorry. This is a very short answer. But it's the truth. Even the so-called conservatives, CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, they simply see. I mean, sorry, but Merkel is the nemesis. Yeah, it was the beginning of all the tragedy in 2015 because she just simply opened the floodgates, and the reason for that was actually because she was talking. We had these issues with the refugees on the Austrian and German border, and they had them already also between Austria and Italy, and there was a discussion between Merkel and the Minister for Interior, de Maizière,
yes, and
she asked him, what do you think is there a possibility that there might be because the defense for the border defense policy, they were already ready to close the borders. They were there. They were standing ready.
So it's a political choice.
The political choice was, there might be some bad pictures, and so she decided to let them all in.
And you think this is a turning point in German history? I
think this is not only a turning point in German history. I think this is a turning point in European history, because what I criticize is that no one, absolutely no one, actually cared in regard of, for example, the Norwegian government, the French government. No one really was bothered by the fact that suddenly migrants could come in by the millions. The only government that was concerned and was also acting differently was the Hungarian one. And they were damned because of that, because they did something to protect their own people.
Sure.
And they got,
Because there are two very interesting questions here. One is the question of cause, what's lying behind, but let's wait with that. But let's just look a little bit, Stefan. We spoke a little bit about this, so I know a little bit about your notes and what you want to say regarding the consequences of this mass immigration, because I think it must be called the mass immigration. I can just give one example. If you look in Douglas Murray's book, The Strange Death of Europe, he calculates that the change in population of England after 1066, the Battle of Hastings, was about 5%. 5% of the population. And that is the biggest demographic change which happened to England in 1,000 years.
Mhm.
And nowadays you get an immigration percentage of 1%, 1.5% every year. So the changes must be seen as massive, obviously. And could you say a little bit about the social consequences about this? For example, in terms of crime, in terms of expenditure, in terms of ideology?
Well, in Germany we have every year there's a crime statistic coming out, and what a coincidence! I have it with me, the latest version, and it is skyrocketing at this point, especially crimes where migrants are involved. And but what the consequence for the society, I think, is the biggest problem, because the Muslims they are spreading the Islam. We have over 2,000 mosques in Germany, and the momentum is gaining. Yeah? And if you see a map from Germany, you have the western part and you have the eastern part, and you have tons of millions of these little dots everywhere on the western side, and then suddenly you see at the eastern part, and you have some in Berlin, of course, but then emptiness, calming emptiness, I would say. And of course, the influence of Islam is extreme, because they try to convince people, they try to convert people, and there are Germans, there are especially German women, which I don't understand. They convert to the Islam, becoming a Muslima, and they feel good about this. I don't know. I mean, we had emancipation, we had all this. Women worked and fought for their rights over a century, and then suddenly I'm stepping back and giving up everything my people fought for. So this is something I absolutely don't understand, but it's happening. And what is also happening is that we have an immense rise in crime, and especially, for example, in Berlin. There is also all the other big cities. You have it in Hamburg, you have it in Düsseldorf, Köln, all the other places. There are parallel societies developing. And in Neukölln, it's a quarter of Berlin in particular, there are areas already where the German police is scared to get in there and do their job. And they are actually on the verge of implementing already their judges, their own judges, and making and bringing the German law system and making it obsolete for them. So they don't care about our law anymore. So we are in serious trouble.
But in terms of the economic side of it, do you think that the waves of refugees have contributed significantly to the development of the German economy, or have they been a drag on it?
That's a trick question, isn't it?
Yes, well...
I'm sorry, but of course, not at all. I mean, there's one example that I'm always picking out, because I think it's interesting to see that they are trying to let's say, integrate them into society with language lessons and how to teach them how to speak at least a bit of German and fill out forms and stuff like that. But they spend hundreds of millions of euros of taxpayers' money, and the efficiency is like 2%. They are capable of finishing this kind of practice, this kind of training. The others they just simply don't go there. They don't care. But it is money that is wasted. And I have several companies, CEOs and self-employed people who talk to me and say, well, we can't. We can't do it because they are. It sounds horrible, but it's not. It's a fact. People are telling me that they are lazy. They have no real intention of working 8 hours straight, like we Germans or like the Norwegians are used to, because we have to. And this is of course something that is so if they don't work, if they don't pay tax, so they can't contribute in any kind of way to the social system. What they're doing is that we pay between 40 and 50 billion euros every year to support them.
40 to 50 billion euros.
Billion, yeah.
Billion with B.
Yeah, with
Yes.
B, with a capital B.
Yes. But if we then look at the changing ideas of what it means to be German, I remember when we met in Berlin and we looked at the German Bundestag, and you told me the story about the initiative to change the words.
Yeah.
Could you give that example as an
Well,
example of trying to change what it means to be German?
Well, there was this idea that the German Reichstag, there is a sentence written on it, carved in stone, to the German people. And some of these left-wing and greenish people had this marvelous idea to just simply change it into just to the people, to the people who live here. Yeah, that's Bevölkerung. Yeah? And this is where you see, okay, they don't have any. The actual government and all these we call them the old parties. They don't have any respect for. They don't have any respect for what it means to be German, for what it means to have this cultural heritage, and it is despiteful from my personal point of view.
Sure. But so the idea for what you call the old parties would be that you can just replace the original population of Germany with anyone who comes in, and that's a good thing for the country.
Well, they believe, obviously, they seriously believe that you can run a country like Germany with people from the third world, which makes actually absolutely no sense for anyone who is in economics, who has at least a glimpse of a clue about economics and about the way these people are working and acting. Yes, we can also already see that things are going sideways, yeah. But well, they are obviously very convinced about their tactics.
But let's move a little bit on to the causes. I mean, because there seems to be, it's very strange that this obvious failure is taking place, and it's not only taking place in one place; it's taking place in many countries.
Exactly.
But the established authorities are not doing anything to change the real causes of it. Actually, they are contributing to it, continuing. So the question is, why? Why is this happening?
Well, if I would know, I might be not sitting here, but maybe somewhere as a deputy or an oracle. I would like to be an oracle in that regard. Maybe sorry, but this is there is no logic. There is absolutely no logic to this. So the only reason for this is that they are doing that on purpose.
Yes.
It is their absolute purpose to destroy the nation states in Europe, because as we already figured out, it's not only happening in Norway, it's not only happening in Germany, it's happening everywhere. So there must be. I'm always careful with saying there is a bigger plan behind there, but when you see that it is happening everywhere, and you have the proof that it's happening, and you have the proof that it has the same effect on the country, in every country, then there must be something to it.
But if you look at this from the geopolitical or the...
From the geopolitical point of view, I would
Yes.
say, of course, there is a method. This is a method. This is a particular method to exchange the people, to destroy the nation states, to develop it into what the European Union is trying to be, further United States of Europe. Yeah. But all these things, of course, take place. But again, from a geopolitical point of view, I would say, of course, there is a pattern. That is an obvious pattern.
And as you said, you think it's intentional to a large extent. There are different groups who try to realize their interests.
I mean, how sounds a bit rude now, but how stupid can you be not to realize that there's something going on, that there's something wrong in what I'm doing? Yeah, I mean, I'm hurting my own people. I see that in Germany, there's not a day that goes by that a woman gets raped, that a child gets abused, that someone gets stabbed by a knife. I don't see that. Nobody's seeing that now, I'm sorry. So they just simply accept the fact that their own people are suffering.
This is allowed to take place. Could you say a little bit, we spoke a little bit about yesterday, about the ideologies which are current in the West, and perhaps even especially in Germany, about feelings of guilt and responsibility, and that we in the West, due to our history, have a responsibility for all other peoples, we must let them in, and...
Well, I don't know for you, but I don't see that there is a big responsibility for the Norwegians to let anyone in. I don't know, I mean, you didn't start any war, and at least not in the last 100 years. No, you can't explain it like that.
No.
I mean, maybe you can do that in the regard of the Germans, so that you can just always repeat a certain guilt, so that they might feel bad about it, but what the Greens and the lefts, they always talk about tolerance, We have to be tolerant, extremely tolerant towards Islam, towards new society, to a change of society, and stuff like that. But the funny thing is that the people that are coming here, they have nothing. They have no tolerance towards us. They have no acceptance towards our society, to our heritage and our cultural ideas. So I think again there is a gap that is opening, well, at least I am, and the AfD is not willing to go down this road.
No. If we talk a little bit about solutions. I mean, we are in the current state, 2023 now. We are, witnessing something which at least some people have called, like the French author Renaud Camus has called it the Great Replacement. When I spoke to him some months ago, he said to me that this should be the chromonym, meaning that it should be the word which characterizes our epoch. The current epoch that we're living through is characterized by everything being replaced, and now it's even taking place with populations.
And everything is turned upside down. Good is suddenly bad, and bad is suddenly good. Whole society is going completely bonkers.
So, from your point of view and the point of view of the AfD, what are solutions here?
Well, of course, first of all, education. Education is the key. You can only fool people that are dumb. And then when we observe how the German educational system was slightly over the decades reduced to a minimal state, let's say like that, then you see that this is happening on purpose as well, because they want stupid people, they want dumb people, because you can tell them anything. You can tell them be tolerant because these people come here, they suffered a lot and stuff like that, and then they believe it, and then they are standing there, the refugees welcome and with teddy bears, and they offer themselves as a present. I'm not joking. There were young girls standing at the station at the time in 2015, offering themselves as guides and stuff and helping, and without having any clue what kind of people are coming there. So education is one of the solutions. People need to be aware of what is happening. So of course, next solution would be that we say that journalists should do their bloody job again. To be neutral, to just report what is actually happening, without being on one side or the other, without saying, without manipulating the truth, or the reports, so that people get false idea about what is actually happening. So doing their job would be much appreciated. The next step would be, of course, that all these criminal migrants, all these illegal migrants, they have to be sent back. That is easy as that.
What numbers are we talking about?
In Germany, we're talking about 2.1 to 2.5 million that are illegal in Germany.
And your party's position is that everyone should be sent back to their own?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Everyone. I mean, the AfD is like, you have the same problem in Norway. They call us racist, they call us whatever they like to, but they call us inhumane because we don't want to help. No, that's absolutely, all of this is nonsense, because we want to help. The Germans were always people that are willingly giving and donating to tons of ideas and helping, but we don't want to get screwed. Yeah, we want to help, but we don't want to waste our money on people that actually do not accept our culture. They just come there and want our money. They don't want to contribute to the social system. They don't want to work. So what are we doing with them? So are they on lifelong holiday in Germany, or what is it then?
But you talked about forced repatriation of people who are not legally in Germany. Does your party also promote the view that some people who are legally in Germany, but maybe they're even born there, are still not able to live there because they should rather live somewhere else in a country more adapted to their own ideas? For example, Islamists. Should they be forcibly repatriated, or should the government encourage them to leave? What do you think?
Well, we have to change laws for that first, because you can't just take someone and throw him out because you like it. It's not a very popular thing to do. So what you should consider is that these people, and especially if you mention Islamists, they most of the time they are working against the so-called basic democratic order. Yeah, they don't care about democracy. They care about Islamism. They want to have their Sharia state, as I already said. They are absolutely, this is their primary goal. And on that point, if they're trying to do something like that, you got them. This is illegal, and they're criminals, and so you can actually send them back wherever they came from.
Yeah. I know, for example, Denmark has introduced legislation.
Very smart idea.
Yeah. You revoked the citizenship.
Yeah, but they also established an island. In Africa. So I mean, this is the thing to do. I think it's a very, very bright solution to just say establish any kind of camp where they can apply for asylum.
Yes.
And we have people over there that can check if they have a right to apply for asylum, and that's a marvelous thing. And everybody who is actually a real refugee, who is in great danger, for example, Christians in Africa, they are in a real danger. And they are already still in real danger here in Germany, because they are in the same camps with the Islamists, with the Muslims, and we had already several incidences that they were attacked in these camps still. So whoever has the right, whoever is in grave danger, will be helped.
Exactly. Do you think that these measures are sufficient? For example, would you receive, what should a reasonable number of refugees be in Germany per year?
Well, that is a very good question. I mean, you have to take, first of all, society have to. I think this is something that depends on society. How much can it take? You have to say, you have to check crime statistics. Who's really involved? And I mean,
but we agree that the number should go down.
Of course, they should
drastically
go down. Drastically. But sure, you know, you see that you have many refugees or non-Germans involved in certain crimes like rape, like murder, like child pornography. That is a very big problem we have, and many non-Germans and migrants are involved in distributing child pornography in Germany. And if you see that these numbers are skyrocketing, then you have to decline, and you have to lower the amount of people that are accepted in Germany. But you can actually, I mean, I'm always saying this is, you have a national interest in that, but you have also a European interest in that. And I think what the European Union, if there would be a European Union that is actually taking a concern on European issues and on the European nation states, then you can also make it a European problem, so that there is some kind of border control and some kind of numbers you have that will be able to enter Europe, and everything beyond that is declined.
So we can cooperate on certain issues.
We should.
Absolutely. But I mean, at the same time, the European Union have been in conversations, for example, with Turkey about joining the European Union.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think anything about this, because I think it would be devastating for Europe. And I think the attitude of the Turkish president is doubtful, especially if he demands European membership, and he says that Sweden can only become a member of NATO if Turkey becomes a member of the EU. That was one of his brilliant ideas, but then I think he stepped back on that, because this would not happen that quickly, even with this European Union we have now, because there are many issues that have to be solved before that. Like, for example, these are Muslims. Again, Turks are not that, let's say, radical than others, than other Muslims. But and you have you could say, it all depends on the generation. I mean, the first generation of Turkish people in Germany, the women were not able to speak German, and I think they still can't speak German even after 30 or 40 years. This is a bad thing, of course, but at least they were partially integrated, and they had a respect to the culture, to the society. And they were working, they were paying taxes, they are contributing to the social system. But this is all declining, and at this point we don't have the capacity to take over more Turks from Turkey or wherever. We have no idea what might happen if Turkey becomes a member of the European Union, and how much money suddenly would vanish in Turkey.
And if I remember correctly, Stefan, the current population in Turkey, due to the big growth of population in the country, is almost the same size as Germany's. So it's not a small country.
No, it's not.
If it were to join the European Union, it would be the second largest probable country of the European Union in terms of population size.
Yeah, but the question is if it would be a netto payer or not.
Well,
I
do that too, absolutely. Yeah. But do you think that these measures which you have sketched now, for example, changing the immigration system, changing the educational system, getting a patriotic ideology up and going in the population, and repatriation of the criminals and illegals, would that be sufficient to change it?
Well, you have to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is a development process that you have to observe very, very strictly, and you see what if you have to adjust to a certain thing, or if you have to add a certain measure. That you can always do, but you have to start somewhere, and I would say that people really should they have to know what is really going on, and at this point From our talks, I figured out that obviously the Norwegians don't understand what is happening to their society.
At least a significant part of the population think this is very uncomfortable to talk about. So
it's uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable to talk about it?
Because
do they have any kind of suppression?
Yeah, well, I think that it's very uncomfortable to talk about for a large part of the population, because if you state such opinions, even if they are facts, you are put in the same category as people who are not very nice people politically.
Yeah, but then again, we have a problem with the media.
Absolutely.
And then again, I say, if the journalists would do their job properly and not trying to make any kind of propaganda for the government, then suddenly it might have a change already.
Sure. Because Norgesdemokratene, our party, is a patriotic party who wants national sovereignty over our resources in our own territory. And this, of course, also includes our own right to decide what kind of immigration that we want to our own country.
And this is absolutely right. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad about it, and everyone should be actually proud of his own country. The Norwegians have a long history, the Germans have a long history, and everyone else, every nation in Europe. So I don't see any problems with keeping up the European nation states. This is one thing, but on the other, I'm traveling a lot in Europe, so the Baltic states, Hungary, Austria, Norway, Sweden, England, and there's always the same conclusion we come to, that it is absolutely no problem at all for us to work together as patriots. There's nothing that separates us. Actually, everything, all the problems in Europe, the big problems, they are actually uniting us, because we don't want them to happen. We don't want our nation states to vanish. And people who claim that nation states are the source of the problem, they don't understand real national feeling or real patriotism, and they don't understand that's hoax. It is a hoax, because wherever I go, the necessity to work together, to solve problems together, it becomes more and more imminent.
Do you think that is, at essence, is a problem for the Europe of nations, and that the EU is part of the problem, not part of the solution?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
But then we'll leave it with that as a last word, and we will open for questions and commentary, which was very popular yesterday, so we encourage our audience to make questions. And questions can be asked in Norwegian or German or English, and I will translate if someone has a question in Norwegian.
Sure.
You're talking about the education, that stupid people are the stupid one, but is it actually? We have to change the learning program, which they have in Norway, probably in Germany, Sweden and everything. They indoctrinated from childhood. So the educated ones are the stupid ones.
Well, if there is an indoctrination taking place, indeed, but we see, I think education is still a very important thing, and for example, the Finns, they were taking over the educational system of the GDR after the GDR, let's say, collapsed, and then there was the reunification. And the GDR took over the one from the Federal Republic of Germany. And suddenly the Finns are up here and Germany is down there. So, and I would say to being aware, to understand certain things, certain, how do you say it, Zusammenhänge? Connections. It is necessary to be educated, to at least to be able to use common sense.
Yeah, but it looks like now these days, that the educated ones are the ones with their eyes shut.
No, these people, I promise you, when you take a look at this, at all these NGOs and all these, and our government, the German government, there's no, at the Greens, they are not educated at all.
Mm.
Not at all. They don't even have a degree.
Mm.
And that's the point. They believe, they make you believe they are educated because they tell you how you have to live and how you are going to make up your life. But they're not. They are the stupid ones. That is the fact. And I can give it to you, write it to you and sign it, because it is a fact that these people are the ones trying to fool you, because you are educated and they are not. And most probably this is the problem of our time. That dumb people are trying to smart people to tell what they have to do and how they have to live. But we have to change this.
Yes, it's very interesting. And we have a professor here in Norway. He's a professor in the university in Oslo. His name is Asle Toje. And he say exactly what you say.
Oh, then I'm proud.
He's a member of the noble
Exactly.
committee, so maybe you will be invited to Stefan.
Well, but I'm not a professor, nor I have.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, never be.
Please.
I was just reflecting on how you began this discussion by saying that it's a European problem, and maybe not just a European problem. You see Japan, you see the same thing there. I think the evidence and the numbers are showing that it's a global problem. It's, this is a demographic issue which developed countries face as they move out of in their developing progress and become a wealthy country. It becomes a complicated country, an industrialized nation, and women start having less children and prioritizing careers and that sort of thing. It's taking place globally, but we're all at different. Each country is at different levels of that phase, and so the Middle East is far down that scale when it comes to how they are, and Africa even more so. Africa is going to be one of the most populous continents in the world in the future, but they're also going to face that same flattening out in the future. So I think if we frame this discussion in a way that, which kind of undercuts this idea that it's racist, that it's us against them, it's more of a global issue, which needs, where you need to take into consideration your country and the potential for your country to continue before you reach a point where you start destabilizing and you're not able to provide services to the population, because that's a phase that European countries and the English-speaking world is going to face in the coming years.
Yeah, but this is a very, very interesting point, but it is also very complex, because you know this development, there is a background to it. I mean, in the Islamic countries, I doubt that they will go down the same road, because they will not leave their religion. They stick to their religion, and they won't give the freedom to their women. You can forget this. This will not happen, and because of that, their reproduction process is higher than ours. And
do you think that the development arch of the West is
I think
unique?
it is globalism. That is
Okay.
our main problem.
Do you have a response to this?
I think that you'll see some countries that I work with international development. I've visited many of these countries, many African countries, the Middle East, Asia, and I see that when it comes to health and education, these are the two main factors which flatten that curve. Greater health for the family, which means that you don't need to replace the children that you lost. It's happened in Norway, it's happened in every developed country, and it's going to happen to these developing countries. When it comes to religion, that does play a factor, but the modernization of a society also changes the way you relate to religion. So I think it can take place in the Middle East. I agree with you that it'll be much harder in the Middle East than in maybe Africa.
But I have to say, take a look what the people are doing, which are coming from Africa, which are coming from the Middle East, mostly from Africa now. What are they doing here in our society? They don't adapt to our way of living.
Yeah, that's because
they're starting to reproduce again over and over and over.
Individuals that haven't gone through that trend that European
yeah,
societies
but then
have gone through.
this is exactly what is the grave danger for Europe.
Yeah,
Then you would be presenting a very good argument against immigration. I mean, if what you were saying is right, that would be a very good argument against immigration.
Yeah, because these people haven't gone through that trend. They don't realize that you don't need 10 children at home, and therefore they don't have the same values, the same ideas, the same ambitions of life, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I agree it's a problem for Europe, but it's not. It's a global issue, and you know, the European and the English-speaking world is just at the front end of this issue, and we're going to face society collapse first.
Geir Jacobsen.
I talked to a lot of voters, and I'm getting frightened because many of these are quite brainwashed from the educational system already in Norway, where they learn a lot of bullshit, pardon my French, about that it's not really important who inhabits our country, as long as there are people here. And that's a very, very dangerous position to take, because it is important who populates the area, and that's what it's all about, really. And it's not a human right to live in every country you want to. I think we pay the price of a 68ers family policy, which didn't take into consideration that we have to survive as a people in the long run. And we have to turn that around. And some of the small parties today are seeing that, and we prescribe a family policy that raises the birth rate again in Norway. And also conservative is there, because it's not bærekraftig. If you can say, we know that we will be expelled in the end. We will be gone if we don't turn this around. So I get really frightened when voters, they have the voting rights, say that they are indifferent to who inhabits Norway. And as long as we have that attitude among politicians and voters, then we are, excuse my French again, fucked.
Well, you have to ask one question. How long did the Norwegians take to develop their own country? How long did it take? Yeah. How long did it take that they had adapted to the environment, which is sometimes rather cold, yeah, sometimes rather stormy? So I'm quite curious if these people which are coming from Africa and from wherever, let's say like this, all Norwegians are gone, so they have to take care of Norway. Well, this will be, I don't know, a fourth world or a fifth world country after a couple of years or whatever, because everything is going, it will be deteriorating. And it is the same in Germany. I always ask myself, they promising us, the government, the media, they say, well, we get specialists, yeah, that can work in our society, that really can contribute to our society, and then we see what kind of capabilities these people really have. And then I'm also asking myself the questions, all right, who wanna, let's skip the Germans, yeah? Who's going to build the next Leopard? Right. Yeah? Is it the guy from Sudan with an IQ of 75? That's supposed to be a specialist or what? I mean, the point is, if they would bring us specialists, and we have, of course, and we have to be fair. There are people from Syria. There are people from some places where doctors are coming from, and they are working in Germany. And I underline the fact that they are working in Germany in their profession and they're doing their job. But the majority of these people, they don't. They just, they live on our money, from our money, and they are not capable. They are not capable to run this country, full stop. And it is everywhere the same. These people that are coming here, they are not capable of running Norway. And everybody should be aware of that fact.
We have another question, but I'll have a comment first.
Yeah.
This relates to the idea of if everything can be replaced with everything else.
Yeah, but that's nonsense. Yeah.
And that's nonsense. And the idea that you are claiming now, presenting now, is that a population has its own characteristics, its own genius, and this population cannot be just interchanged with any other population. So, for example, if we took the entire population of Norway, let's say it's 5 million, and we removed them, and we moved 5 million Chinese to inhabit Norway, Norway would not be Norway anymore.
No, not at all.
But I'm not sure that, for example, people from the so-called left would agree with me. They would think that the position
but these people, they think that every human being is the same.
Exactly.
There are no races, there are no individuals in their thinking. But this is nonsense, of course. But in fact, that doesn't mean that we are racist. I very much like to talk with and to work with Japanese. Yeah, I once tried to learn this language as well. I love to travel and to talk and to meet other people, and I respect them. And so that means, in fact, that I'm no racist. Yeah, but what I do like and love is my country, my own country. But what I also support is that every other nation, for example in Europe, for example Norway, should stay Norway, and as a nation, and with all their heritage and all their achievements they have made, and to mix these things up in a blender, like bit of Norway, bit of Chinese, bit of Sudan, bit of Africa, but whatever, and a zip of Germany, and then suddenly, what comes out of it? That's a good question. I don't want to know the answer.
So just in short, they are not working for culture preservation, like they say. They are working for culture eradication.
That's exactly
like if you have a painting box with many colors, children sometimes experiment. They take all the colors and mix them. Then you don't have colors anymore. They're gone. And I'm not talking about skin color. It's culture. It's everything. It's just a boring, beige kind of porridge. That's it.
You know what?
No cultures.
What the media and all the and the old parties in Germany are saying about the AfD. They are the brown ones. They are the Nazis, of course. Yes. But there's a funny thing here. In color education, what do you get when you mix red and green?
Brown.
Thank you. No further questions.
Very good answer.
We have a question here first, and another one here afterwards, please. Yes. Har du et spørsmål? Ja, vær så god.
Yeah.
Ja.
We have some called UDI in Norway, who shall look for who shall come in to Norway from the immigrations and shall not. And in the UDI in Norway, we have very many Muslims jobbing because they want to stop the migrations from the Christians you was speaking about. And I have a friend who was a Christian who have a problem with our UDI, and I also looked at UDI and saw when that we have called
Make it a Norwegian.
Si det på norsk.
Enker etter selvmordsbombere, eller in Norway from Muslims.
Okay.
And they can come back on the state's cost. But Christians have asked for their loved ones to come back to Norway, and have got Muslims in UD, and they stop them and say, no, they are not.
So you have Christian immigrants that wanted to have their relatives with
yes,
them,
but they will stop
and
them.
then
and
as
they-
the fact that there are Muslims working in your well, you can't make things up like that, right? That is it's completely amazing.
Yep. Yes, that is amazing, and that is a problem in UD in Norway. So
Yeah.
we need to get together in the right side of our parties and stop that development.
Yeah, I will keep this in mind. I will tell this.
Because the socialists has been too much inside of the UD, and we also see it in their politics. So and that's a problem on how can we do for stopping things like that, because they take in their own this.
I think this is the same problem that in Germany in the 68s they moved through the instances. There they positioned their green and left ideology in these areas, and they only employ people from their state of mind.
Yes.
And they love to have, of course, because they are so tolerant, they hire Muslims, and they get the support. And but it is actually something that is unbelievably outrageous. So I mean, this is something you should make a big fuss about, because
Yeah.
I mean. This is still, as far as I remember, last time I stepped off the ferry, I think it was a Christian country.
Yeah.
So how can it be possible
Yes,
that Muslims decline Christians to get their relatives into this country? It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
the same.
you have to make a huge fuss about it. That's
Yeah,
what you should do.
my friend tried, but
Yeah.
they won't write about it.
Yeah, we have these alternative medias. I mean, you have to
I
work
have
within.
been aware of this
Yeah.
in this now.
We have another question there.
Yeah.
We'll have a time for a couple more, and then we'll wrap up, please.
Yeah, we're talking about immigration all the time, Muslims and whatever, who it is. But immigration is just a symptom. What we have to work on is the big UN thing. All the goals that they make.
The NGOs and so on. And I agree
NGOs,
that,
New World
yeah.
Order, no matter what you call it. Then you have all
Globalization.
the different colors in the same bucket. Everything is mixed out. We have to change the politics from the inside. In Germany, in Denmark, in Sweden, in Finland, in Norway, wherever, to keep our own
Identity.
sovereignty.
Yeah, and sovereignty. I agree with you.
We have to go out from UN and cancel all those.
Or we have to restructure it. As I always say, we have to
It's not
restructure
possible to
NATO.
restructure it.
Yeah, because the problem is that we still have an immense influence of the United States, for example. They are the ones that want to keep the things in the position it is now. And because we have, in the NATO, for example, there are only people in charge who are pro-American, or they are at least, or they are Americans. But what do you want to expect from this? I mean, if the Europeans have no say in all of this, and the Europeans in the EU, for example, who have a saying, they just say, "Oh yes, sir, thank you, sir," instead of really fighting for their own interest, for the interests of Europe. Yeah, well, this is actually something we have to change. We have to get rid of these people, of course, gently and democratically, on the basis of democracy. But in fact, we have to do that.
Yeah, because we can't just stop taking in those immigrants.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to work on a higher level, because they will just keep on sending them in.
Yeah.
Well, the supply is endless, I can
Yeah,
assure you.
That is
really is.
We have two more questions. Kjeran first, and afterwards it's you, and Gail will say a few words in the end, if there are no further questions. Varsågod.
I would like to comment on the UN, because Wikipedia has a page called Democracy Index, and the UN is a large part of UN is what we call flawed states, dictators, and all kind of things. The power of UN, as we identify as democracies, is maybe 20%. So there will always be a huge majority against us. So that's why I am very much against UN as now.
Well, my idea is a European security structure, a simple European security structure without the influence of the United States, without the influence of any kind of superpower, so that we can actually deal with our own problems in our own way. And I think we might be capable of it. I heard someone once said, I think it was Kemal Atatürk, that there are many nations, but there is only one civilization, and that is the European one. So I think we should be able to deal with our things on our own.
I used to say it's kind of I wouldn't let the neighbor run my economy. It's just the same with the country.
Yeah, if he runs it, he runs it in his own interest.
Yes.
I mean, of course.
And just for your information, Stefan, we have, in a matter of our political program, that we want to leave the United Nations. We do not want to be a member of the United Nations because we think that's against our national sovereignty. So, just for your information. We have a last question.
Hi, Stefan.
Hello.
What I see about the problem with the immigrants is when they're coming to our countries, is they are trying to steal our tradition in schools and everything. School kids, Norwegian school kids, and everything is celebrating Christmas or holidays and everything like that. They say, stop it, or we won't be in the school. And that is a problem because they can't come invade our country with their tradition and put our tradition to the side. I think you probably have the same in Germany also.
Yeah, that's what I said. They demand tolerance from us, but they are not tolerant towards us.
True.
And if there is no balance, then these kind of things never work out. And of course, that doesn't mean that I support that they spread their culture here. But I just like to stress out that if there's no idea about being tolerant towards our culture, and it is actually not intended.
Yeah, because I have lived in Denmark for 5 years, and I was following up about the immigrations and everything there, and they were stealing a lot from Danish citizens and everything like that. But the Danish government, they said, because Arabians, they don't want the Muslims in Saudi Arabia and everything, so they can't start to make mosques and everything in Denmark, because if they didn't do that, because the money is coming from Arabians and Saudi Arabia, and so the Danish government, they're taking those money away from the immigrants, especially Muslims. That is maybe an idea to try to get them back again.
Yeah, sure.
We have a final question on the first row. In German or in?
In German.
In German. You will ask the question in German.
Ich habe eine Frage. Welche Bedeutung hat das Christentum in dieser Partei? Nach meiner Meinung, unsere Kultur ist ja geformt vom Glauben her und hat uns Reichtum und alles Gute gegeben. Und das muss ja wieder hochgehoben werden. Ja.
Werte, das sind die wesentlichen Dinge.
Eben.
Und die AfD, ich glaube, das war jetzt der Gedanke, die AfD, über die Partei, die Sie gerade sprachen, ich denke, das sollte die AfD sein. Ne?
Genau. Ja.
Die AfD hat in dem Augenblick zum Beispiel eine eigene Gruppe innerhalb der AfD aufgebaut, das sind die Christen in der AfD. Das heißt, die christlichen Werte werden in der AfD hochgehalten. Man versucht überhaupt nicht in irgendeiner Art und Weise sich anzupassen. Ja? Das haben wir als Christen in einem christlich-abendländischen Land nicht nötig. Wir haben eine deutsche Leitkultur. Wir haben hier in Norwegen eine norwegische Leitkultur, die
Du
ebenso
könntest es
christlich
gut
ist.
auf Englisch machen.
Ja.
Sagen.
It's no problem. I understand it, but
You can translate it.
Well, yeah.
Det er av interesse, tenker jeg, av hele forsamlingen.
Yeah.
Dette, ja.
Well, you have described that within the AfD there is a Christian
There is-
fraction.
Exactly.
And could you
Yeah. You can also tell it to the people in Norwegian, and then I continue. But
Sure. Skal jeg si det på norsk? Altså i Norwegian. Stefan beskrev altså hvordan AfD er organisert med en egen gruppe internt i partiet som understreker den kristne tro. Men som han også vektla, så handler jo kristendommen dypest sett om verdier og hvilken verdigrunn et parti har. This was a very brief summary. I don't know if you want to add something.
but I think it is just important to know that the AfD values our origin, our
Yes.
Christian origin, and as I said, there is no need for us to change our attitude, because we live in a Christian land with our Christian heritage, and everyone who doesn't want to adapt to this and just wants to build up a parallel society, for example, I think they should reconsider staying in Europe.
Thank you. The party chairman, Geir Jacobsen, will say a few words and then we'll wrap up. But before you get the word, Geir, I remind you that there are still copies of the book, which Stefan can sell to you and sign.
Yes, sure.
Yes. So, Geir, over to you.
Thank you again, Stefan. Very good. Lots of questions answered and lots of questions asked, and we still have a lot to think about. We don't have the final answer to many things. I'd like to emphasize what we talked about in the last part about the over-national orchestrating of what's happening in Europe and in the world. Because we have a lot of entities, of supranational organizations that used to be the servants of the people, especially the European or the Western people. But they have, in some way, become the nightmare of a robot constructor, because you construct robots to perform your services for the best of you. But in the moment that the robots get their own will, their own intelligence, and they use all accessible resources for themselves, they get feelings, they get a will, then they become your enemy.